From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Schools will soon open again across Montana, but with special precautions because of the COVID-19 pandemic. One question that many people are asking is what that means for activities such as sports, which came to an abrupt end with just about everything else last spring as the coronavirus began to show up here in the state. Well, today, the Montana High School Association released its guidelines to return to fall activities. Q2's Scott Breen joins us now to tell us more about the plan. Scott?
Well, from one corner of the state to another, biggest Montana high schools to the smallest and some in between, like here in Joliet, there's a collective exhale on this Monday and a giant burst of excitement. Your fall sports season is on as scheduled. The Montana High School Association announcing this morning with a letter to all of Montana's schools that they are a go. Naturally, they're encouraging some adjustments. High school volleyball teams are asked to provide visitors with their own separate allotment of volleyballs. There'll be no switching benches between games. Athletes in all sports are asked to bring their own water bottles, many of which already do. The MHSA is encouraging athletes, when possible, to keep at least 6 feet apart. That one will be tough during competition. They have not put a limit on the number of family members or fans who can attend games and events, choosing to leave it up to each school district depending on local health regulations. Practices are to be held in small groups or pods. Golfers can start practicing on August 13th. That's just a couple weeks out. Football, volleyball, soccer, and cross-country teams have the green light one day later. Again, those are just a few of the high points delivered today from the Montana High School Association. We'll take a closer look and break down some additional details coming up in sports. And we've shared all details from the MHSA in our stories at montanasports.com and ktvq.com. In Joliet, Scott Breen, MTN Sports.
All right, thanks, Scott. The lone cancellation to date is the All-State Band, Choir, and Orchestra music festival, which was scheduled for October 14th through the 16th. That event, we've learned, will not be rescheduled. Well, when Billings students head back to in-person classes next month, much of their day will be spent wearing a mask or face covering. But when will the mask not be required for students? According to School Superintendent Greg Upham, some leeway will be given to students with breathing problems or other sensory disorders like autism. Masks won't be required when students eat lunch or participate in physical activity like sports practice. The school district is asking parents for their help in supplying some masks and making sure that they're clean.
It's been known to work, so we can't discount the importance that face coverings have when we come back to school. I have less anxiety now after meeting with Dr. Koo, the disease specialist, Mr. Felton, and reading about the effectiveness of face coverings. I feel much better. But that being said, we have to believe in those face coverings. And then also what I basically passed our parents as a community, we need your help in doing the right things to keep the virus at bay so that we can go back to school and function appropriately.
Upham says it might be a good idea for Billings students to have 5 washable masks for each day of the school week. In Wyoming, the state announced today it will deliver 500,000 washable cloth masks to its various school districts. As schools across Montana eye how to start back up in the fall, we all have questions, but for teachers who are looking to stay safe and do their job, there's even more pressure. MTN's Andy Curtis explains how they're preparing to head back to school safely.
Teachers, bus drivers, and administrators across Montana and the country all want to get back to work safely. But returning to traditional classroom settings during a pandemic is a complicated subject. Because it's not just the students teachers will have to worry about this year.
Our most at-risk members cannot go into a brick and mortar building if their doctor tells them not to. And if they're caring for a parent or a child or a family member who's at risk, the level of precaution that they have to take going to work and going between work and home is a really high concern for folks who maybe are healthy themselves but have to consider the health of a household member.
Weighing financial responsibilities and health concerns will require some flexibility from educators, and the Montana Federation of Public Employees is currently surveying their members to see what they expect this school year. And according to Curtis, options for teachers who can't return to in-person classrooms because of health concerns will be based on each individual. And that is not an easy decision.
There's a lot of anxiety right now in the education community. And I mean, everywhere. We're all surviving this pandemic together. We're going to get through it. Montana's tough, and MFPE members are some of the toughest.
They will have to be, with an uncertain school year ahead of us. Reporting from Helena, Andy Curtis, MTN News.
Meanwhile, a Yellowstone County woman in her 90s has become the 47th Montanan to die while battling COVID-19. State health officials announced 41 new cases today. 61 people are currently in the hospital with the coronavirus. More than 480 Yellowstone County residents are currently infected. That's the most for any county in Montana. We also learned this afternoon that a Montana hospital CEO has tested positive for COVID-19. Dr. Dean French works for the Community Medical Center in Missoula. Also, 3 Livingston Healthcare employees have tested positive and are now in quarantine. All right, turning to Ed McIntosh for a first look at weather, and we're not talking about rain showers, we're talking about meteor showers right now.
That's right, yeah, and you got it right there too, because there are 2 different showers that we're going to be watching that just happen to be occurring at the same time. So neither one of them are really one of the bigger displays of the year, but if you find yourself away from the city lights, just be patient. Give your eyes time to adjust. Look to the darkest part of the sky and hope for a little bit of clearing since there are a few clouds around. Tonight really might be the best night to settle in. Some of the meteors in this particular shower have a tendency to be rather bright, but they're just not as frequent as some of the storms. And if you're thinking about how hot it's been, this is typically the hottest week of the year. The average daytime high hitting 89 degrees. But this week, we're looking at a lot of those readings hitting the 90s. There are a couple of wrinkles we need to talk about. We'll have that with the forecast coming up.
All right, thank you, Ed. The tribal owner of Montana's largest coal mine is bringing back all 73 employees that had been furloughed back in April because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Navajo Transitional Energy Company, which owns the Spring Creek mine, said today that those employees will begin their normal work schedules the week of August 3rd. The company announced it was furloughing 130 workers in Montana and Wyoming because of slumping energy demand related to the pandemic. The layoffs included 73 workers at the Spring Creek mine in Decker and another 57 at the Antelope mine in Wyoming. The Spring Creek mine has a total of 260 employees. An effort to stop the demolition of the old grandstands at Metro Park has been rejected by Yellowstone County District Judge Rod Souza. 2 weeks ago, the Montana Racehorse Owners and Breeders Coalition filed for a preliminary injunction to stop the demolition project, citing irreparable harm if the grandstands were torn down. Judge Souza ruled the coalition failed to present any evidence of such harm and presented no facts that the county failed to follow all required legal procedures. County Commission Chairman Dennis Pittman is pleased with Souza's ruling, telling Q2 it clears the way for the 71-year-old grandstand to be torn down. Pittman said much of the inside work, such as removing asbestos and windows, has already taken place. He said the heavy work of removing the canopy over the grandstands will begin once Montana Fair concludes in mid-August. Dan Fuchs with the Racehorse Owners Coalition said, well, his group is disappointed. It did raise awareness to the grandstand issue and the developing master plan for Metro Park. But the story might not be over quite yet. Fuchs says a group of Billings horsemen is still striving to get the grandstand added to the historical registry by the end of the week in hopes of halting the demolition. Over the past few weeks, there have been reports here in Montana and across the nation of people receiving mysterious packages from China. The content of those packages are found to contain unknown plant seeds. Montana Ag Network's Lane Nordland shares more.
It came in a simple envelope shipped by a China post.
The Montana Department of Agriculture confirmed at least 5 residents received packages of seed. Receiving unwanted or contaminated seed is against the law in Montana, but it also creates the risk of introducing noxious weeds into the environment.
Unknown seeds represent a risk to agriculture, to horticultural plants and native species because we don't know anything about those seeds. They could have unknown plant pathogens, they could have unknown viruses, and so we definitely wouldn't want to plant any of those seeds in the ground, and we wouldn't really want to even throw those seeds away. So we wouldn't want them to end up in a landfill and grow somewhere in Montana.
If you receive a package of seeds, contact the Montana Department of Agriculture.
So if we have that packaging information that came with the seeds, we can work with our USDA partners to analyze that pathway of where those seeds are coming from, how those unknowing customers are being identified. So it'd be really important to get those seeds identified and then also have the packaging if anyone's receiving unsolicited seed shipments in Montana.
In addition to natural resource worries, there's also concern for identity theft, as this could be considered a brushing scam, a deceitful e-commerce technique where a vendor sends an unsolicited product to a verified address to submit positive online reviews unbeknownst to the receiver. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Lane. The Montana Department of Agriculture is awaiting official guidance from the USDA on how to proceed with safe disposal of the mailed materials. You should report any unsolicited seeds received in the mail by contacting the department. Still ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, we're going to take to the skies as the Magic City welcomes in the Flying Legends. That story coming right up. And in sports, the Montana High School Association announces its decision on your fall sports season. Scott will deliver all the details.